Good morning. Yeah. And welcome to the official groundbreaking for the new International Spy Museum. Madam Mayor, yes. Madam Mayor, Councilman Evans, founder Milton Maltz, founder of the museum, and also representatives from JBG, the architectural firm, and of course, someone I will introduce shortly, Laurie Stokes. I'm Peter Ernest, founding executive director of the museum, and I am truly excited to be here this morning and celebrate with you the realization of a dream and the new home of the museum. A beloved member of the museum, and by the way, the museum is going to be totally new, not just this building, which you've seen as a picture, but also in terms of many newly acquired artifacts and a totally new design inside with many experiences for adults and young people. A very beloved member, truly beloved member of our board was Congressman Louis Stokes, whom we lost only last August. And today we are truly delighted to have Laurie Stokes, his daughter, who has accepted our invitation to MC this event for the new location. Lou would have been absolutely delighted. Laurie considers herself a Washingtonian. She was morning anchor for WJLA, which many of you may remember, and she was one of the founding anchors of MSNBC. And since 2000, she has been an anchor on WABC in New York City. She has many journalistic awards and recognitions, the Peabody Award for her coverage of the World Trade Center attack, as well as the Peabody Award for her coverage of the World Trade Center attack. And in 2003, the Congressional Black Caucus Leadership Award for civil service and her status as a role model. And the Mayor of New York has given her award for her work in community outreach. I told Laurie that just before she came on, I wanted to mention the book that Lou Stokes wrote himself, Gentleman from Ohio. And Laurie saw it to the end of the writing of the book. It was published just before he passed away. And in it, he describes his selection to go on the Intelligence Committee. He had a great love of intelligence. And he went in to see Tip O'Neill. And O'Neill leaned back in his chair and he said, Lou, he said, there are about 40 people who have asked me for a position on the Intelligence Committee. But if you want one, you've got it. And that was how highly he regarded the role of intelligence. And he just loved the museum. And we are so pleased to have Laurie Stokes, his daughter, come down and help MC this event. Laurie?
Thank you so much, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor, Councilman, gentlemen. If my father were here and he knew I had Peter hawking his book, he would say, honey, this is not the right event for this. Channeling my dad. This is indeed an honor for me to be here, to spend this afternoon on such a beautiful day weather-wise, but such a historic and beautiful day with why we're here. My father, of course, served 30 years in the U.S. Congress. He served on multitude of committees, visiting in Moscow with the refuseniks who were being harassed many times by the KGB. Also, his work with Iran-Contra, then leading up, of course, to chairing the House Intelligence Committee, all laying the groundwork so that he could be with Mr. Maltz and help with the other board members in founding the museum. He loved this museum. Talking to several people here have said, we love your dad. I want you to know the feeling was absolutely mutual, that the love came right back to you as well. In fact, I was his caregiver last summer before he passed, and In July, he asked me to come back to our Maryland house to retrieve some things. He had not been back since June. And when I walked in the house, into the family room, sitting in a chair was a Spy Museum goodie bag from his last meeting during June that he had been here in D.C. So again, thank you for allowing me to be with you this afternoon. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of being able to introduce Mr. Milton Maltz, founder and, of course, chairman of the International Spy Museum and founder of the Maltz Company as well. Fellow broadcaster, fellow spending time in Champaign-Urbana as well. Mr. Maltz is the driving force behind the International Spy Museum. He founded the Maltz Communications Group, Inc. in 1956 and served as a chairman and CEO until he sold the company in 1998. Under his direction, Maltz became one of the most successful operators of radio and television properties in this country, with stations in major markets from New York to Los Angeles. Will you please give a very warm welcome to Mr. Milton Maltz.
Thank you, Lori. Can you all hear me out there? Lori, your dad was something very, very special. In our community in Ohio, he was the only congressman that had the total support of both Democrats and Republicans. I wish he'd given lessons to the rest of Congress. It would have helped. Before I go into some commentary here, I have a very important message to all you guys sitting out there. It's going to be 94 degrees. It's hot. Take your jackets off.
I got you.
Take your jacket off. Come on, guys. Ladies, you can keep your blouses on. I would like right now to recognize members of our distinguished governing and advisory board of directors. We'll start with General Michael V. Hayden, who's the retired U.S. Air Force four-star general, former director of the NSA, the CIA, and principal deputy of DNI. And then there's Keith Melton. Keith, I think you're sitting over here somewhere. Wow, what a collection you have of artifacts. And the last one that I recall was the axe that was used to murder, if I may, Mr. Trotsky at the behest of Stalin. And there's the axe. It'll be in the museum, and the bloodstains remain. And then there's Tom Melcher, the money man, chairman of PNC Investment, and he's one of the 100 wealth advisors nominated by Worth magazine. And then there's David Kahn, world's leading expert in the history of cryptology. He's an author, lecturer on political and military intelligence. Oleg Kalugin, you know, who'd have believed this 20 years ago? He was the youngest man to ever graduate from the KGB school and become a general. He also headed up TASS, the Soviet news agency here. And we got to hand it to him. He loved America so much that he decided to become a citizen. And if he ever stepped back in Russia today, I think you know what might happen to him. Then there's Melissa Boyle Molly, former CIA officer, a lecturer, expert on the Middle East, which is such an important aspect today. David Major. David, you're sitting out there. You're former director of counterintelligence and security programs, and you're the first FBI official to be appointed to the National Security Council. Jana Mendez. Jana, we're so happy that you're here with us today. You're former CIA chief of disguise in the Office of Technical Service. And I understand that you've done a lot of work in Hollywood, teaching them how to use disguise. And then, of course, there is Tony Mendez, who was able to bring out a half a dozen people who were, I think, hostages in Iran. Former CIA chief of disguise as well. And I don't know if I can tell this story, but both you and Jana worked for the agency. You met each other, you fell in love, and you're married today. See what the CIA can do? And then there's Malcolm Nance, former U.S. Navy terrorism interrogator. He is an advisor to the Middle East policy to the United States on special operations, Homeland Security. And then we have a lovely lady from England. We're talking about you-know-who, Stella Rimington, former Director General of the British Security Service, MI5. And she was the first woman ever promoted to the rank of Director of a major agency. The very first person that I approached to become a member of our board was the Honorable William Webster. And I'll never forget that first meeting. He listened to what I had to say, and then he said, "You see this car? You're from Chicago originally. It's a 1930s police car, but it's a little unique. Take the top off." I took the top off, and there was a bottle of scotch. And he said, "Let's drink to the coming museum." Bill, thank you so much for breaking the ice. You were the first member of this advisory board. Then, of course, there's Ambassador James Woolsey, former director of the CIA, Undersecretary of the Navy, delegate at large, U.S.-Soviet arms reduction talks, and nuclear space talks. How about that? What an outstanding group of people to help navigate. I think many of you might remember 14 years ago what it was like on F Street. It was dark, street lights didn't work. That wouldn't have happened if Mayor Bowser were there. We'll get to you in a minute. But it was really tough stuff, and everybody thought I was crazy. And the former head of the National Association of Museums was on PBS, and they said, "What do you think of this new potential museum that's going to open in a few weeks?" You know what he said? "It'll never work." And the narrator said, "Why? If it did, somebody would have done it before." In Yiddish, we would say, "Oy vey." We wouldn't have automobiles, we wouldn't have airplanes, we wouldn't have America if everybody took that position. So we mushed on ahead. That was 14 years ago. But you know, why did I think of this museum? I've had so many of you ask me, why did you do this? I'll take just a few seconds to say, at 17, I joined the Naval Reserve. I needed my father's permission, and he gave it to me. And that was at the University of Illinois at Navy Pier in Chicago. And it was an interesting place to be. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when I was 20, a Lieutenant J.G. came in and said, "Take this test. Just do the best you can." I did. Next thing I know, 30 days later, I'm the only one in my outfit called to active duty. Well, I thought, I'll do sea duty. I'd like to be on an APA or a patrol craft. Guess where I wound up? Right here in Washington at the National Security Agency. And in those days, it was just shortly after Truman became president, we called ourselves the No Such Agency. General, you remember that line, don't you? We have really changed the entire world now with that having gone by. In addition to which, things were so secret that we were urged to socialize with people inside the agency as opposed to being outside. It was an interesting time. And I, along with my family, take pride in setting the stage with this museum. Because when we sold the broadcast business, like a lot of people who have been working hard all their lives in a given industry, now what? And obviously, this was the shadow in back of me. Because when I was released from the Navy to go back to civilian life, they offered me a chance to stay on as a civilian with a GS-9 as the beginning. So I had a choice, broadcasting or NSA. You know the answer. So it always bothered me that did I make the right decision? Well, now we've got both. We did broadcasting, and now we have this museum. I'd like to share a few artifacts and their stories. about intelligence and its significance. For example, George Washington wrote a letter to a gentleman named Nathan Sackett in 1777. And we put that letter on the screen. I hope the sun doesn't destroy it. Can you see it? That letter was the beginning of espionage activities by our government. It was 1777. When we finally won and defeated the British, Brigadier General was summoned by King George and asked the question, how could you, with the greatest military organization on this planet, have been defeated by this ragtag army in the so-called colonies? And what did he say? He said, Washington, he was not defeating us militarily. He simply outspied us. Interesting, isn't it? And the question is today, and I've asked myself this, if Washington hadn't been dedicated to the world of intelligence, would the United States have been the colonies and the nation that it is today? I don't know that answer, but it's possible. And now something very special has happened. My family, and two of them are sitting out here, my wife Tamara and my son Danny, and my other children, Julie and David, said, you know, Dad, the time has come when this museum should become a not-for-profit museum, and it should be a gift by our family to this wonderful country. And so we filed with the Internal Revenue Service, and they granted us a 501c3, and we've created a structure so that this museum will last in perpetuity. This status opens up new partnerships with other intelligence agencies, museums, the Smithsonian. We already have done a number of projects with the Smithsonian, and we look forward to working with them even more closely. And now let's talk about some of the benefits that we've offered to this community. Mayor Bowser, I think you may know about some of these. So if you don't mind, I'll reiterate them. We offer free admission to all Title I schools in the D.C. area. In the past 5 years, we've welcomed 10,000 students through this program. We host an annual educator night out where we invite more than 3,000 educators to learn about and explore the museum. We also partner with community organizations, including the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington, the Community Hope of D.C., and the Washington Nationals Dream Foundation to expose their members to the exciting world of intelligence and espionage. We also bring the museum to children in local hospitals who are unable to travel through the Hope for Henry Foundation. And SPY provides free programs for D.C. residents with disabilities, such as an evening for the deaf community in partnership with the Gallaudet University and Hands to Inspire. We look forward to continuing to build and expand these programs to our new home right here in L'Enfant Plaza. Now, I want to talk to you, Mayor Bowser, if you don't mind. I got another nomenclature for you, and it's not mayor. No, it's governor of the District of Columbia. And I have a thought and an idea. We have to leverage this Congress to do something because, let's face it, there are two states that have less population, Vermont and I think the other one is Wyoming. Right. And here we are with 700,000 citizens. We have a piece on the screen. I don't know, James, can you show that? It says, and justice for all, and it comes from the Pledge of Allegiance. But we've done one thing different. We've added a question mark after it. And so I say, the time has come. So what are we going to do about it? Here's an idea. An idea is that we create on 10th today a avenue or boulevard of the states. Each state will fly its flag. each state will show its bird. Like we have here, Mayor, it's the wood thrush. Beep, beep, I love the wood thrush. Anyway, we're going to have all 50 states up 10th Avenue until we get to the end. And guess what's there? The 51st state of the United States of America. And all we have to do now in the coming election is put a little leverage to bear. I guess I could do that, but, well, maybe I will anyway. I speak a little Yiddish because my parents never wanted me to hear what they were talking about. But the word for Congress, who has not passed legislation accordingly, is another name for, Tamar, what do we call that? Oh, come on. It's a shanda. A shanda means it's a shame. So I address our friends in Congress and say, shanda on you if you don't pass this legislation.
That's right.
And so, without further ado, our wonderful mayor, and by the way, Mayor, just so you should know this, other cities have been after us when we had a problem with Carnegie. New York, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Las Vegas, etc. We're sticking with this place because it's the right place for this museum, and you're the right person to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother. Congratulations.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am just here to give my congratulations and thanks to Milton Maltz and his family for sticking with the District of Columbia. Give Milton a big round of applause. Let me also add my thanks to all the members of the board who have been so critical in the Spy Museum's history in Washington and the Spy Museum's future in Washington. Let me also recognize my friends on the Council of the District of Columbia, the host council member, Charles Allen from Ward 6. Give him a big round of applause. And Jack Evans from Ward 2, give him a big round of applause. I also see the director of our Destination DC, who is responsible for attracting tourists and visitors to the best city in the world, Elliot Ferguson. Elliot, give everybody a wave. So it is true, I am the mayor of the best city in the world for some time, because soon we will be the 51st state. It is important that we stay focused and talk to all Americans from all 50 states about the 700,000 people who live here, pay taxes here, who have all the burdens of citizenship, but do not have all of the joys of citizenship. And that number one joy is having a member of Congress and 2 voting senators in the Senate. So we stay focused on that. We are a city, a jurisdiction, city, county, state, all at once, who has its act together. Because of the leadership of so many people, this city has come a long way. I tie the Renaissance of Washington, D.C. to those leaders, a big vision for attracting residents and making sure that we're a fiscally sound city that attracts businesses and people, that has safe neighborhoods, and that has great schools. And that's why we have more than 1,000 people choose Washington every single month. That's why businesses are flocking to Washington. And that's why when you see our skyline is filled with companies who've taken a bet on Washington, who've made millions of dollars of investment, and those investments are paying off for them. And we are also home to over 70 museums. Millions of people come from around the world to Washington, D.C. for the cultural experience that we offer. And SPY is such a unique offering in the entire offering of museums that we have. We love this location. We love this location. We love this location. And that's why we were interested to be a $50 million partner with you. And $50 million the district has pledged in revenue bonds for the construction of this new site. So why do I say this is so important? I don't have to tell you of all the great things that we have going on at the mall. And now you can see all of the great investment happening at the wharf. Somebody told me this is the biggest construction project on the East Coast, or is it the whole country? Whole country, biggest construction project. We've been working on it for a long time, and starting next year, you're going to start seeing things open. But how do we connect the millions of people who are coming to our mall with all the great things that are going to be happening on our wharf? And this avenue is so important to that connection. So we appreciate the investment that you're making. We're not walking away, because we know there's some infrastructure things that we want to do as well to make that connection real. And not only will 20 million people come to Washington, D.C. in 2018, it'll probably be 25 million after that. And all of those things are important because in a city like ours, like all big cities, we have a lot of things going for us, and we also have big city challenges. And we can take care of our challenges when we can attract business and revenue, when we can attract tourists and the revenue that they bring. That's how you get a fiscally healthy city that can make the investments in making this a Washington, D.C. for everybody. So I want to thank you, Milton, for your continued investment. I want to wish you all well. I know that I'll be here when it opens and all along the way representing all the residents of the district. So please enjoy the rest of your lunch, and let's get to work.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. It is a great city. Jack, will you please welcome Councilman Jack Evans from Ward 2.
From Ward 2. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And as she's leaving, give our mayor another big round of applause. She's doing a fabulous job leading the District of Columbia. So when you're this far down on the program, there's an old saying, it's all been said, but not by me. So you will have to endure some more comments. In addition to thanking the mayor, I want to again recognize Elliot and most importantly, Charles Allen, council member, my great friend. Give him a round of applause. And Elliot, thank you. I'm really excited about this. You know, it was over 15, 17, 18 years ago now. I look at my schedule and some guy from Ohio wants to meet with me about a museum, you know, and I'm thinking, oh no. So in walks Milton. He sits down at my table. He says, I want to build a museum in a part of town that nobody goes to, in a town that nobody charges. I'm going to charge, and I want the city to help pay for it. How can you go wrong? And you're right, Milton. We all thought you were crazy. So I said, what the heck? What do we have to lose? You know, why shouldn't the city get on board? So I think it was either $7 or $15 million. We loaned them, did a TIF project, you know, and I thought, you know, what's going to happen here? You fast forward, the Spy Museum paid the money back in half the time and went on to be one of the most successful museums in the city's history. Milton, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Time goes on. Not long ago, a guy comes into my office named Milton again, sits down at my table. He says, I want to build another spy museum in another part of town that nobody goes to. I'm going to charge money, and I need the city to help pay for it. So here we are again, Groundhog Day. I said, well, work once, let's try it again. So the city's back in for a bunch of money. Milton's in, everybody's in, and we're putting it in a place where I have to say, this is used to be my wards and Charles' wards, although I think it's still in my ward, I'm not sure. But the bottom line is, this area is desolate. Do you ever come here in the wintertime? It looks like the Ocean City Boardwalk in February. It really does. Got some leaves blowing around, nobody really around, nothing happening, and we're right in the center of Washington, D.C. How could this happen? And even I.M. Pei said, that was my worst work. This was my worst work. I don't know what I was thinking, how this ever happened. And so what we have to do, as the mayor mentioned, is connect them all to the southwest waterfront, and the only way to do it is right through here. And you know, it's a little bit of trivia that nobody cares about but me. In 1975, my very first job in Washington as a summer intern was in the James A. Forrestal building. that Berlin Wall that absolutely walls off this part of the city from the rest. And so I know this area quite well, and the long-term plans obviously are to get rid of that Forstall building, to open this whole area up, and really make this a grand avenue from the mall down to the waterfront. This museum will be the beginning of that. You need something to start. And so by putting this here, you are going to have a tourist attraction, you're going to bring people here, and you're going to show the vision of what this can be when we make those kinds of changes. And so your willingness to take a chance again on the city, to really support what we're trying to do, is enormously appreciated. So I want to thank everyone involved in this. This is an exciting time in the district. As the mayor mentioned, we are the most dynamic city in America today, barring none. We are. Give that a round of applause, because we are. We are the nation's capital, and we are a city on the move. So thank you for being a part of this, and I look forward to the event that's even more important to a politician than this, and that's the ribbon cutting. So we will be back for the ribbon cutting. Thank you, and God bless.
That was great. Thank you very much. Well, as Councilman Evans talked about the planning and the vision, and this won't look like the boardwalk in about a year and a half from now, but there goes a lot of planning and architecture and overseeing and making sure that everybody is doing the right thing. So would you please welcome Britt Snyder, who is the principal with JBG. They serve as the owner's rep, overseeing the construction of what will be the new Spy Museum.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear me? Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and always tough to follow Councilmember Evans and that level of enthusiasm. Just want to say thank you to everyone, Mayor Bowser, Milton Maltz, of course, Ambassador James Woolsey, and all the other distinguished guests who are here today. The JBG Companies is absolutely thrilled to welcome the Spy Museum to L'Enfant Plaza. It's such an exciting institution. I do believe it'll build upon its current popularity and become an even more grand, fun, and popular place to visit. On a personal level, I grew up here, and I'm the son of a former CIA Inspector General, so working on this project, special place in my heart. As the owner of L'Enfant Plaza, JBG has worked hard to energize this place. We've brought new shops and restaurants here, downstairs to the retail level, and now there's more than 40 offerings for office workers and visitors to choose from. We built this large glass atrium to connect the plaza down to the retail, and we've commissioned international artists to paint 3 indoor and outdoor murals, and have renovated 3 of the office buildings here. Next, we hope to work further with the city to tackle the transformation of 10th Street behind me. And we have future plans for a new trophy office building, actually, right over there. This is a major makeover, but JBG is in the business of major projects. Make no small plans, as the saying goes, and that's how we do our business. We're so fortunate to have an incredible partner like Milt. He's such a gentleman and a true visionary. It has been such a pleasure to work with him, James Gomez, Tamara Christian, and the entire Mallwright and Spy teams. I salute our world-class architecture teams, Rogers, Stirk, Harbor and Partners, and Hickok Cole Architects, as well as our friends at Clark Construction and all the other consultants working on the project. Last and certainly not least, I want to express our appreciation for having Mayor Bowser in our corner. Without the moral and financial support of her administration, this day may not have happened, but it did, so thank you to the mayor. At the end of the day, we have an unbeatable team and the perfect location for the Spy Museum, as Milt can attest. At JBG, we develop with a commitment to enhance the community, to create spaces and buildings that will endure. For the new Spy Museum here at L'Enfant Plaza, we're building an addition to the city's landscape that will be both a model and also memorable. I would also like to quickly recognize my JBG colleagues who helped us get to this important day and who will continue to work very hard to see the Spy Museum come to fruition. Brian Coulter, Rob Stewart, Dave Paul, Susie Boggs, Jim Klein, Jonathan Brunel, Jeff Williams, Alex Ransenberg, and Dan Purcell. Thanks again for everyone for being here and for supporting this project.
Thank you, Britt. Well, of course, you can't build it if you don't have the drawings, so someone has to do that. Ivan Harbour is the architect. You can tell by what he's wearing that he's creative. Ivan is a partner at Rogers, Stirk, Harbor and Partners in London. Ivan has led a design team on the European Court of Human Rights building, the Bordeaux Law Courts, and winning the Sterling Prize for the practice in 2006 and 2009 for Terminal 4 of Madrid, Barajas Airport, and Maggie's Center in London, respectively. Would you please welcome Ivan Harbour?
Thank you, Lois. So I've been tasked with trying to describe to you today what will appear on this amazing site over the next 18 months. Yes, some people think architects only choose colour, that's all we're useful for. You'll see there is a theme today. The theme is red, of course it's what the SPI's colour. And in fact what you're seeing here, an image in front of you on the screen, but also a mock-up part of the building where we're testing colours, testing the quality of details that we're expecting to see. This will be a building that not just has a very powerful formal image to it, but also a building that has a huge amount of humanity in its detail and its scale. It's a building about people and for people. This will be bespoke to the International Spy Museum. And it has been a unique opportunity, I think, to create a physical expression of the intrigue that surrounds the world of intelligence and espionage. And on those grounds, the building comprises of two distinct parts. You can see it on the image, which is a twilight image of the building. The first part, which we've called the black box, a sort of mysterious place which will house the principal exhibition spaces, the secrets, as it were. And then in front of that, what we've termed a veil, which is a glazed space, and there's circulation, staircases, and what have you, all part of the exhibition experience within that space. And they really are trying to get out this concept that intelligence and espionage is something that happens in plain sight. So the notion that the building will be animated by its visitors and that engaging them with the city connects the activities that are being, the stories that are being told within, and connects those to the real world. The juxtaposition of those two volumes is a big inclined wall. The building will reach right out across 10th Street to sort of wave to people who happen to be travelling up and down the National Mall and draw them through the newly invigorated 10th Street. A visible destination, a real public gesture, I think, to the mall, and also, of course, to the rediscovered waterfront. The exhibition spaces, again, you'll see from the image here, are perched above the street. So the building actually floats over the sidewalk, and the ground floor is reserved for the shop and the lobby. It'll be very open and transparent. You'll be able to see the movement of people gathering. It'll excite you as a passerby to come in and join the experience. That cantilever continues around to the south, and there'll even be an outdoor covered space to encourage people to gather outside and wait their turn for the exhibition space, which of course will be absolutely chock-a-block and full. The top of the building, we're floating another space which we've called the white box, in contrast to the black spot. Here the architecture is all about transparency, and this will be a place for events. There are spectacular views across the city from this great flexible space up there, and they'll of course extend the hours of activity of the museum and contribute further to the animation of 10th Street. So in all, this really is, I've done many buildings. This is a unique building for a absolutely unique program in an absolutely unique location. I've never seen such a clean groundbreaking ceremony. This building is being built on top of another building below us. I think it's going to be an amazing success. It'll be seen, I think, both as an international destination, and it will certainly help catalyse this reinvigoration of this part of the nation's capital. And good luck to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. And so, this is just really an exciting afternoon. If my dad was here, Milton, he would thank you for allowing me to be a part of this afternoon. He would congratulate all the board members and be so proud of what's getting ready to happen, particularly also when you take into the account of reaching out, the educational part of this, which you know that my father really pushed for, that he wanted young people to be exposed to these types of things. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'd like to invite all of the speakers first. If you did not sign the beam, please come up, get a Sharpie and sign it. Also, to commemorate this day, we're going to install a time capsule in the new museum. That capsule will be opened on July 4th, 2076. Yeah, very cool. We'll still be here. It will it will commemorate and also contain a snapshot of life and the world of espionage and intelligence today. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to all of you all for being here this afternoon. Also, a reminder, the Spy Museum as it exists right now is fully operational. You can go there, even though this is going on here. It's going to be open. I think it's going to be closed, a dark period for about 3 months or something like that. But this is unheard of for it to continue operating. So make sure that you go there at the F Street location. Each of you will also receive a complimentary ticket in your gift bag today. Enjoy your lunch, and everybody else, after the speakers have signed, please feel welcome to come up and sign the red beam. Have a great afternoon.